Most businesses hit a plateau at some point and can't seem to break through. This is often due to a lack of leadership, followership, process, and continuous improvement. By understanding and utilizing the 4 scaling capabilities, you help your business grow and thrive. Today on the Scaling Academy, we're going to talk about the 4 scaling capabilities. If you're new here, my name is Don, and I'm a consultant in the life sciences, and I help companies scale by managing complexity and increasing performance. There's a blog post of mine that goes along with this video. If you'd like access to that post, please make sure that you click on the link below this video. Also make sure that if you like the video, that you click that like and subscribe button. What I thought we could talk a little bit about today is just to spend a little bit of time of talking about the 4 scaling factors for growing your organization. And this could pertain to anything from small organizations that are just for the first time trying to grow, or if you're a larger organization and you're trying to add more capabilities inside of the company itself. And so as companies grow, they need to think about each one of these items as they move forward. And there are 4 scaling capabilities: leadership, followership, process, and continuous improvement. Now, each one of these items, whether you're, let's say, a 10-person company that's continuing to grow to 20 people and beyond, or you're a company that has hundreds of people currently in the organization, it doesn't really matter. These topics are absolutely relevant for organizations that, let's say, are on the small side, all the way up to the billion-dollar organizations that I've been involved in the past. There are also topics that have to be revisited throughout time. They're not static. And so having a leadership model that works today doesn't necessarily mean that whenever you get to 200 plus people, that same leadership model is going to continue to work. Your leadership, followership, process, and continuous improvement need to evolve along with the organization. Let me just break each one of these items down and talk about each one of them a little bit more in depth. From a leadership perspective, the way that leaders think about how they motivate people is absolutely critical as the organization continues to grow. If you have an organization, let's say, that is 10 or 20 people, motivation might be actually, getting in the room and talking about checking things off the list. Motivation, however, whenever you start to add people in the organization to where you have hundreds of people, including people that have been trained and are subject matter experts in a specific area, the motivation for those individuals is going to need to change as well. And so you need to come back and think about, how do you motivate the team with regards to people that are subject matter experts that have to continue to evolve along with your organization. The inspiration, again, early on in an organization's life, inspiration could come from actually getting traction early on, or getting to the point where the organization is starting to actually see that initial financial growth might be inspiration. As the organization continues to grow, though, people take inspiration from different areas. And so you need to be thinking about, how do you actually motivate an entire workforce that might consider things like working on life-saving drugs or the diagnostics that support healthcare as being that inspiration. And so you need to think about that from a leadership perspective, and how do you deliver inspiration to a larger team as it continues to grow. Clear direction. I've seen people that are great leaders that are either too detail oriented or way too high level, and so they can't play kind of in both worlds. There needs to be a consideration from a leadership perspective of, how do you provide clear direction for your people so that they can clearly understand when they wake up in the morning what specifically needs to get done. Having that method of clear direction is absolutely critical in any organization as it continues to grow. Communication. I've mentioned this a couple times in terms of, each of the messages above, but also having that method of communication is important. So this isn't just about having one single thing that you do in terms of communicating. Lots of people take messages from different methods. I've seen great leaders who write their communication and only write their communication. So if you're not a recipient that reads written communication, you're probably not going to get what's coming across from that particular leader. Also, spoken communication. Some leaders are great at speaking, but aren't so good at writing. And so there has to be a balance as you think about methods of communication with your team and being that leader that they need to be able to deliver the message at a specific rate, and as well as at a specific time that they need that communication. So communicating once weekly or once monthly, written or standing in front of the audience, may or may not be enough as the organization continues to grow. And so leaders need to continue to think about the method of communication in addition to the frequency of communication for the given team that they're leading. Lastly, in terms of managing conflict, organizations that are growing often are seeing more and more conflict that happens. How do you manage that conflict? How do you manage it with your individual staff? And also, how do you manage it whenever you go across the leadership team, across the different leaders? When leaders talk about other leaders, in front of their teams, oftentimes this can lead to additional conflict amongst the team with the other teams. And so with that, being able to manage conflict with teams is absolutely critical. Now, if we skip over to followership, from a followership perspective, I'm mostly talking about your people and how they think about following the things that are happening inside of the organization. So it could be willingness to work hard. Maybe, as you've continued to add people, they don't necessarily understand the level or the frequency of work that's going to be coming at them. And so that willingness to work hard from a followership perspective is critical for your organization as it continues to grow. Understanding the vision. So this plays a little bit more into the communication realm from a leadership standpoint, but also this means that for those people that are following inside of the organization, they've got to be able to understand where you're going and what it is that you're trying to achieve overall as a leader, but also as an organization. Open to change. Change is going to become a more and more regular, frequently seen challenge in front of a lot of different people with regards to the organizational growth. And so if they're not willing to change or not open to change, this is going to be a very tough time for them as the organization does continue to grow and scale. And lastly, whenever it comes to organizations that are growing, oftentimes the individuals that are in those organizations get or receive more and more criticism with regards to how they're delivering certain messages or how they're communicating across teams. It's important not just to being able to balance the change yourself, but also just being open and willing to work across as a teammate. Being open to criticism really is about how you partner, how you really, jump into the fray and help people get work done. And so that willingness to receiving criticism becomes more and more important for followers as they go through any particular type of organizational growth. And so whether it's the leader giving feedback and saying, hey, you could do something a little bit differently or a little bit better, or even just, being able to, as a coworker and a teammate, being able to sort of work together and being open to criticism is an absolutely important skill. From a process perspective, so whenever you think about work not being standardized as the organization grows, what could happen is that maybe people won't understand the steps that aren't standardized. And so having standardized work become more becomes more and more important as an organization as it continues to grow. Having clearly defined work, again, kind of goes along with standardization, but really having clear boundaries, and those boundaries may continue to change. If you're an organization that, let's say, goes from 20 people to 200 people, most likely people's jobs and what they used to do yesterday may not be something that they actually are doing anymore today at the same level. And so with that, you might want to consider how jobs continue to evolve and are clearly defined as an organization. Being transparent. What work has been done and what work is still yet to be done from a process perspective is absolutely important. As an overall organization, understanding what needs to be done is important, but also from an individual perspective, being transparent and knowing how to communicate back to teams what exactly has been done is important. And lastly, having those really consistent processes is something that absolutely is critical for the overall organization. Having that consistency means that your products can be delivered on time, or deliverables that are expected from one individual to the next can actually be delivered on time. As organizations continue to grow from a process perspective, it's absolutely critical that you have consistency so that people can understand when things will be delivered and at what frequency, either for the end customer or even for internal customers in the organization. There are 3 levels of continuous improvement that you should consider as your organization continues to grow in its capabilities. First of all, from a self-improvement standpoint, how do you think about improving the individual people that are in the organization and continuing to make sure that they grow? Making sure that they have a path and that they have ways to invest in themselves is absolutely critical as the organization continues to evolve. Secondly, team development. How do teams develop? Whenever you have a team that's very small and every day they're communicating to all of a sudden teams that could be even hundreds of people, how do teams develop and evolve as they grow? And lastly, from a process improvement standpoint, how do your processes get fixed? How do you think about actually fixing errors in the system so that the errors of today don't become sort of the problems of tomorrow? Hopefully this topic on capabilities that are needed as your organization scales has been helpful. If it has, please click the like and subscribe button. Thanks so much.